Hello everyone, welcome back to Ansarkari. So today we are continuing with the topic of oligopoly market. Here we are going further deeper into what are different models which have been proposed by several economists. So first one here is the Kinked Demand curve theory. So this has been given by Paul M. Sweezy. So he proposed this theory of Kinked Demand curve. So here we are determining the price and again what is going to be the equilibrium output, and there is differentiated products which are being produced. So differentiated products unlike the homogeneous goods, and here we see that since the name is kinked, so kinked is drawn like, here we have quantity, here we have the prices on the y-axis. So this bend, this is a demand curve, and this point E showcases the kink. So kink is at the prevailing market price. So this price, suppose PE is the prevailing market price, and we have a kink here, and this shape showcases that this upper section, which is the DE section, is elastic section of the demand curve, and the lower section is the inelastic part, the ED part, the capital ED, the lower section. So this is the kinked demand curve graph that we have, and the major thing that it is conveying is the sticky prices under the oligopoly market. So it explains why sticky prices are there at the prevailing market prices. So there is a reaction pattern that has been studied, and it tells us the reason why the prices are sticky, and we have the kink in this demand curve. So for reaction pattern, let's suppose there is the first reaction that can be there is price reduction. Let's suppose the firm tries to reduce the prices, which is already, for example, there is one price in the market which is prevailing. Now, since it's oligopoly, there are few firms, it is competition amongst the fewer firms. So in order to increase the profit, one firm would try to cut down the prices, or this is also known as undercutting from the prevailing or the market prices. So when the firm tries to reduce the price, other firms will follow it. They will follow it, and they will also reduce their own prices in order to ensure that they are not losing their customer base, and their profit is maintained at that level, or it is increased, but it shouldn't be reduced. So that is why other competitors or firms which are there, they will follow the main firm which started with the price reduction. And because of this, the first firm which decided to undercut the prices is not going to gain much. So this one reaction pattern is showcasing the inelastic section of the demand curve, which is the lower section here. So this is depicting the price reduction, the reaction. Another would be price increase. This can be also one of the options of the reaction by the firms. So when one firm decides it can increase the price, and through the extra margin because of increase in prices, which can help it again in increasing the profit, will decide to go forward with the price increase. But other firms are not going to follow, because if it increases the prices, there is not, we can say, a surety that it is going to attract more of customer base, because consumers always looks for what is less expensive. And since we are also having the alternatives in the market which are present, so this is not going to again give profits to the firm which decides to increase the prices. So here we say that this is depicted by the elastic section in the above graph, which is this DE section, the upward section which is there. Now this is showcasing the rigidity in the prices. How? Two options are only available. A firm will not go for price reduction because it is not going to gain much, and it will not increase the prices again because this is going to in a way give it losses. So it decides that it is going to stay at point E only, which is the prevailing market prices. So hence the prices are rigid under the oligopoly market as per the Kinked Demand curve theory. So this is there, and at the prevailing market price, now we will see how the profits are maximized. Or in a way, we can say we are studying the equilibrium conditions now, so that we are now like already clear with that price are going to be rigid in the market. So we'll understand this again through a graph. Plot quantity on the x-axis, prices and the cost on the y-axis. So we draw the Kinked Demand curve, DKD, and correspondingly we draw the marginal revenue curve. So you will see that there is this discontinuity in this marginal revenue curve. Now, this section of discontinuity is because of, again, the Kinked Demand curve, and the larger the difference in the elasticity of the two sections of the demand curve, the greater is this discontinuity gap. So we will pass this marginal cost curve here, and this becomes the equilibrium output that will fall at this particular point only. So when again the thing remains same, MR equals to MC gives us the equilibrium condition here. Now let's suppose if the cost increases. So when cost increases, the margin cost curve will shift up, and even after this also increase in the cost conditions, the intersection point would be this. So the equilibrium point still remains this price level only. So there are going to be no changes in the equilibrium condition. And similarly, when for example, the demand in the market increases, so for this, the demand curve has to shift right. So it will take this shape, and here also we will see the marginal revenue curve will also shift towards the right, correspondingly to the shift in the Kinked Demand curve. And even in this condition also, the prices are going to stay unchanged. So these are the two possibilities if there are any changes in the cost conditions or the demand conditions. But again, this is not a universal thing. There are certain exceptions. So we have again two exceptions. For example, again, the one thing that we took was the rise in the cost in the above case. So when the cost increases, it will increase for all the players in the market which are there. So when the cost increases, the firms will increase their prices, and now this will be matched by all the firms which are there. So the firms are going to follow this price increase decision, and this will lead to the upper section of the demand curve, which was elastic. Now it becomes less elastic because all the firms are following the decision taken by the leader firm to increase the prices. So there would be less changes, it becomes less elastic, and we see that the gap, this discontinuity gap, will reduce because the difference in the elasticity of this Kinked Demand curve will reduce, because again this section is becoming less elastic and this is already inelastic. So in a way we can say inelasticity of the upper section increases, hence the gap or the difference will reduce down. So this is opposite to this. And in this case, now what would be, we just have to imagine what would be the changes in the equilibrium prices. So in this case, since this particular gap will also reduce, so in this situation, the MC curve will pass from this section, and here you will see that this is going to be the price. So price also increases and the equilibrium quantity reduces under this situation. And in case of rise in demand, same is going to be the pattern and the result that is seen in the rise in cost. Because if the demand increases again, the other firms, they will also try to increase the prices because they have an opportunity or a chance to increase their profits. And when again the prices will be increased, the MC curve will be intersecting the MR curve here, and again the equilibrium price will increase, the equilibrium quantity will reduce. So this is one, we can say, the exception situation which is there. So few drawbacks that we have is, it is not explaining how we arrive at the equilibrium price, not explaining the how element. Second, it is also not explaining where we will have the kink in the demand curve. Where is the kink in demand curve? That is also not being explained. So for this, we have another economist, Hall and Hitch. They gave the equilibrium condition using the kinked demand curve theory. So they state, this is the kinked demand curve, and equilibrium would be where we have the average cost curve tangent to the demand curve. So this point K becomes the equilibrium point. This is again at the equilibrium price, and the quantity will be provided through this condition. But again, this has one limitation, that what if the cost conditions are different? So this is not going to fit, or it is not going to be stable in nature. Also, the King demand curve does not work when we are studying the collusive model of oligopoly. So there is one limitation. Now, when we see that even when we see the boom or inflation like conditions in the economy, then also we see that things become opposite. How they turn opposite? So firstly, the shape of the King demand curve becomes opposite, and even the Marshall revenue curve. So that's how it takes the shape. And now we see that marginal cost will pass through 2 points. We don't know which one is the best out of these 2 points, because it is intersecting the marginal revenue curve at 2 points. For example, K and R. So which is going to be the equilibrium point is a challenge under this situation. So this is the kinked demand curve theory. Majorly, it is just conveying us the message that the prices under the oligopoly market are rigid in nature. Why there is rigidity? Because the best alternative to the firm is to prevail at the already existing market conditions and the price which is being determined. It shouldn't shift by either increasing the prices, or by, we can say, increasing, when there is increase in demand, then also it shouldn't increase the prices. So it is not having any kind of, we can say, a better alternative. Now we shift to the classical models of oligopoly. So today we will take up two models. First is the Bertrand model. Bertrand model of duopoly. Duopoly because there are but it is going to be oligopoly market only. For example, we can assume firm A and firm B are there under the Bertrand model. So let's go through the assumptions first. So in assumption, first we see that under the Bertrand assumes that price is going to be the adjusting factor. Adjusting factor means that quantity will not change with the changes in the economic conditions, only prices are going to change, and prices has the full freedom to change. It can also fall flexibly, but the condition is that it can only fall until we reach the marginal cost of production. If it falls below this marginal cost of production, then firm naturally enters the loss-making area, and that obviously no firm would want to enter that. So it will stop when the price reaches or falls up till the marginal cost of production. Then mutual interdependence between the firms is absent. This is also known as the zero conjectural variations. This implies, for example, there are only two firms. If firm A decides to make certain changes in the prices, decides to undercut the prices, it assumes that firm B is not going to react. It is going to stay at its own position as per its again own analysis. So this means there is not going to be any kind of reaction when firm A is doing any changes in its prices. So this is zero conjectural variations, and also mutual interdependence is absent. And products are going to be homogeneous in nature. Homogeneous products. Now, how the things work or how the reaction pattern is working under the Bertrand model. We have two players. We assume firm A and B. Let's suppose firm A enters the business first. Now, in the market, there's no other player is existing. So when it decides the price, we call this as the monopoly price. Because at this point of time, it is the only seller in the market. So it decides the monopoly price in order to again maximize the profit, which is the sole or the core objective of the firm. So after this, we see the player B will enter the market. Now, what will B decide? What should be the ideal price for B in order to maximize its profit? When already A is there, it has set its own monopoly price. B will try to pick a price which is little less than the monopoly price decided by A. So this is again called undercutting in order to capture the whole market, in order to maximize the profits. Because when it will have little less prices, the consumer base will shift towards B. Now, when B undercuts, it is trying to capture the whole market. Now, A has two options with it. Either it can maintain the same price as decided by B, or it can again undercut the price decided by B. In case of when it goes ahead with maintaining the same price as B, it will be able to capture only partial market. In case of undercutting the price as determined by B, it will be able to capture the whole market. So A decides to go with option B because it is having more benefit. It will be able to earn more profits under this. So again, the same cycle repeats. Now B will also react. It will also keep on undercutting. So this process continues again as we started with when the price equals the marginal cost of production. So it will stop here, or we can also say the average cost of production when we are looking at the total output which is there. So price equals to the average cost of production, and in this case we say that the combined equilibrium output of both the firms, it will be equal to the competitive equilibrium. Now this means competitive equilibrium is being the one that we get under the perfect competition. So in the end, the equilibrium price that we get and the equilibrium output that we get is the same as we saw under the perfect competition. So this is one similarity here. Now let's understand this through the reaction curve approach using a graph. So we draw the reaction curve of both the firms separately. This is price of firm B is plotted on y-axis. On x-axis, the price of firm A, because we have two players. Now, reaction curve is derived through the isoprofit curve. Isoprofit curves is telling us the points where the profit of the firm is same, it remains same, but at different price level. So maximum profit is depicted through isoprofit. Iso means same. The profit remains same on one single isoprofit curve, but that is at different price level. The situation is being depicted as similar situation by one single isoprofit curve. So for firm A, that's how these are the isoprofit curves are drawn, and it is labeled as, so pi, it denotes the symbol of profit, and A is for firm A. So we number them as we go up. So the minimum points, when we join them, this is the reaction curve of A, the upward sloping curve. Now let's suppose this is the equilibrium point E. This is giving us the equilibrium price for firm A. And if we plot it down, if again now firm B, if it decides that it will be setting this price B, so the firm A will now decide that it will have to either go with this price or it will undercut a price which will be going to be little lower than the PB. But in this case, it will be earning less profit because the upper section or the upper curve depicts higher level of profit. Now this curve will also depict higher level of profit compared to this curve, the second curve which is there. So this is going to be the thing. And similarly, we draw the isoprofit curves and the reaction curve of firm B. So it takes a little different shape and direction. So this is the reaction curve of firm B in the market. Now equilibrium is given by the intersection of the reaction curves of both the firms. So this was for firm A, this was the reaction curve for firm B. So this is giving us the ultimate equilibrium price in the market. This is what the Bertrand model has suggested us, that we go as per the reactions of the firms, we plot that on the graph, and we get the equilibrium price. The second classical model is the Edgeworth Duopoly model. As the name suggests, it has been given by Edgeworth, and here also assumptions states again no interdependence. As we saw in the above model, no interdependence between the firms. Products are again homogeneous. And we have similar cost conditions. In both the firms. So cost of production we are talking about. So the Edgeworth model is going to tell us in one single statement, if we say that there is no determinate equilibrium reached in oligopoly or in duopoly. There is no determinate, means there is no single stable equilibrium point in case of duopoly. Now how it is explained, again we draw a graph here. It is little different from the graphs so far that we have understood. So this, the we can say the line which is drawn in the center, which is dividing this triangle into two halves, this is the y-axis, and the section towards the right, this is the positive axis of the positive side of the quadrant, and this is the negative side of the quadrant. But here again, we are not concerned with the signs. So this is, we are drawing simultaneously for both the firms, firm A and firm B. And on this OD axis, this is the depiction of prices here. And again, the horizontal one is depicting the quantity on both the sides. So when we label them DC and DC dash, these are the two demand curves of both the firms. The maximum price that can be charged is price OP. This is also the monopoly price, but here it will not be able to sell the entire produce. This is what can be produced and sold. OA section by firm A and OA dash would be sold at price OP by both the firms. Now let's suppose This is the maximum output. OB is the maximum output that we assume by firm A, and OB dash is by firm B. So when we label them, let's suppose this point is R, this is R dash, this is E dash, this is E for firm A, and this point is OQ. So OQ price is the perfect competition or the perfect market condition price. So this is being depicted here. Now, when we understand it completely, it will be clear how it is working. So DC and DC dash are the demand curve as stated before. OB dash is the maximum output that can be produced. Now, suppose if both the firms they decide to collude, in that case, they will be selling at price OP and will be able to sell OA output. So for firm A, it will be earning how much profit? OAEP. This section is depicting the profit being earned by the firm A. Now here we see both the firms, they are at position OP price level selling their respective quantity. Now firm A decides to undercut. A undercuts the price. So for firm A, it will be coming at price OR. At OR, it can sell the maximum that it can produce, which is OB. So for it, the profit that it is earning at price OR, which is the profit of area OBSR, is more than the profit that it was earning before at OAEP, which was at, this is at price OP, the monopoly price. This is when it undercuts at price OR. So it is better for it to undercut because it is able to sell at the maximum level. Now it has undercut. Now how the firm B will react? B will also now decide to undercut. Now for B, it will be selling at price OR dash. At OR dash, again, it can sell the maximum that it can produce at full capacity. And again, the profit that it will earn will be OB dash S dash R dash. When it undercuts, this is again going to be more than what it was earning before, which was OA dash E dash P. So this was again at OP price level. This is at OR dash level. So they will keep on undercutting until they reach price OQ level, which is also the same price as we get under the perfect market conditions. So it can't go below OQ because the maximum that it can produce is OB. Now, when you see, for example, if we see they are selling or any of the firm decides to sell at this price, which is, let's say, OW. So you can see when we extend it here, it extends this section of OB. We had assumed that this is the maximum that it can produce. It can't produce this extra output level. So that is why it can't sell below the OQ price level. So this is one thing that has to be kept in mind. So when, suppose firm A, it reaches the OQ price level and it is selling the maximum again that it can produce. So now both the firms are at OQ price level. Now, what is the next best alternative? It is not going to stop at OQ price level only. That is the thing, that the equilibrium remains indeterminate. Now, at OQ, A will again react. A will see that at OQ, B is selling the maximum that it can, but the profit it is earning is less compared to the price OR dash at which again the B was earning the level of profit. So for A, it sees that it can seize the extra section of market, which is fully not being captured by firm B at price OQ, and it now decides to increase the price level. So now both the firms will react by increasing marginally the prices, and again they will reach this price level OP now. So they keep oscillating between prices OP and OQ. That is why we say that equilibrium remains indeterminate. So this is also one of the conclusions that has been given by Edgeworth to us, and this is also known as the perpetual disequilibrium. So here we saw that the core thing is equilibrium remains indeterminate. Under the Bertrand model, we analyzed how the reactions of both the firms, they lead to equilibrium using the isoprofit curve and then deriving the reaction curve from their isoprofit curves. Given we say that limitation is that the interdependence has not been factored in, but in reality, again, the firms are interdependent. They analyze what their competitors are doing. And under the Kinked Demand curve theory, we saw price rigidity again under the duopoly model. So these are different conclusions that we have seen and how these have been explained through the graphs. So thank you so much. In the next video, again, we will continue with the classical models under the oligopoly. So see you in the next class.